The alien soldier's voice cut through the thin air like a blade. "Human, you'll never survive our moon," he mocked, his exosuit glowing with a faint violet pulse. He drove a silver flagpole into the grey dust of Acreon's barren moon, the flag snapping open to reveal a jagged insignia, a symbol of dominance, of empire. Captain Amara Cole watched from the cracked visor of her helmet. Her oxygen monitor blinked red, heartbeat spiking in her ears. Around her, the human outpost lay in ruin, half-buried domes, melted scaffolding, antennas twisted like broken bones. Her boots sank into the dust as she stepped forward, her reflection caught in the polished metal of the alien's armor. "You don't know what we survive," she said quietly, her voice steady despite the rasp of thin air. The alien tilted his head, curious but unmoved. "You built cities on a dying planet and now you come to ours? You think persistence makes you powerful?" Amara's lips tightened. "No, it makes us human." The wind howled between them, carrying a faint tremor from the crater ridge. The alien's ship shimmered above, a monstrous silhouette against the crimson dawn. Amara lifted her wrist display, scanning for remaining heat signatures. 5 survivors scattered across the outpost. The rest, gone. She tapped her comm. "Call to all units. If you're breathing, you're not done. Get to Dome B. We rebuild from the ash." Static answered, followed by a trembling voice. "Dr. Kwame Mensah." "Amara, oxygen stabilizers are failing." "We have less than an hour. Then we make that hour count." As she walked past the fallen solar arrays, the dust clung to her suit, forming a grey film that dulled the blue stripes of the human insignia. Her grandmother's words echoed in her head. "Child, when they tell you the world is ending, you build another one." Inside Dome B, flickering lights revealed the faces of the survivors. Kwame, tall and composed even in exhaustion, Lieutenant Rayla Jordan, her flight suit scorched from re-entry, and 2 engineers from the Lagos Institute, hands shaking as they tried to rewire the oxygen converters. Rayla looked up as Amara entered. "That alien out there planting flags, he thinks we're finished." Amara nodded, kneeling beside the control unit. "Then let's disappoint him." They worked in silence, the hum of failing systems filling the air. Amara's fingers moved with precision, guided by memory and necessity. The console flickered green for a moment, then dimmed again. Kwame exhaled slowly. "We need a power source that can handle this environment. Solar's useless with the dust storms." "Then we improvise," Amara replied. "Humans have always found light in the dark," Rayla smirked. "You sound like your grandmother again." "Good," Amara said. "She survived 3 wars and 2 floods. We can handle 1 alien moon." Outside, the horizon burned red as the alien soldiers vanished into their ship. The moon's surface shimmered with radiation heat waves, casting the wreckage in ghostly patterns. Amara stepped toward the viewport, watching the alien flag flutter in the distance. She whispered to herself, barely audible, "Let them mock. We'll answer with survival." She turned back to her crew. "We'll start by rebuilding the oxygen lines. Rayla, stabilize the reactor. Kwame, reroute life support through the auxiliary core." Kwame nodded, already moving. "And if it fails," Amara's gaze hardened, "then we breathe grit until we make air." The team sprang into motion, driven by the stubborn rhythm of humanity, that defiant beat that had carried their ancestors through deserts, oceans, and centuries of struggle. Rayla's voice broke the silence as she welded a fractured pipe. "You really think we can last here?" Amara paused, her eyes fixed on the alien flag. "I don't think," she said. "I know." Outside, dawn crept over Acreon's horizon, a crimson sun lighting the dust like fire. Somewhere beyond that light, the alien soldier smiled, believing humanity's story was ending. But inside the dome, a different sound began to rise, the low hum of machines awakening, the heartbeat of human defiance restarting once more. And as that sound grew, Amara Cole whispered the words that would one day echo through generations. "If you want to see how far humanity can go when told we can't, stay with me." The hum of the oxygen filters had turned into a desperate rattle. Each breath inside Dome B came with the taste of rust and fear. Amara Cole wiped the dust from her visor, and stared at the dim glow of the life support console. The numbers were falling again. Dr. Kwame Mensah's calm voice broke the silence. "We've sealed every breach, Captain. The readings still drop. Either the stabilizer core is fractured, or someone wants it that way." Rayla Jordan crouched beside him, the edge in her tone sharp. "You're saying sabotage?" Kwame didn't answer immediately. He pressed his hand to the casing, listening to the irregular pulse of the system. "I'm saying the damage looks deliberate." Amara felt the weight of the statement settle in her chest. Out here on a hostile moon, trust was as precious as air. "Let's not start turning on each other," she said. "We find the cause before we find blame." Kwame's dark eyes met hers. "Agreed. But if someone sold us out, they'll choke with the rest of us." Outside the dome, the wind screamed against the hull, scattering fine grey dust into endless spirals. The alien moon's sky was a violent red-orange swirl, dimming the sun behind chemical haze. Acreon was alive in its hostility, every storm a reminder that the planet did not want them here. Amara keyed her wrist pad, calling up the outpost map. "Kwame, you and Rayla check the reactor corridor. I'll handle the stabilizer core." Rayla frowned. "Alone?" "That's a bad idea. I built that system," Amara said. "If someone tampered with it, I'll know." She stepped into the narrow maintenance shaft, the echo of her footsteps swallowed by the hum of machines. Her mind drifted, unbidden, to the sound of her grandmother's voice in the old Lagos apartment. "When you can't breathe, remember your ancestors. They made air from nothing." It was a story about survival through rhythm, about people turning pain into music. Amara used to think it was just poetry. Now it was her heartbeat. Reaching the stabilizer bay, she crouched beside the panel. The casing had been scorched, but the damage pattern was too precise for an accident. Her stomach tightened. Whoever did this had known exactly where to strike. The comm crackled. "Captain, it's Rayla," came the pilot's voice. "We're in the corridor. Found residue on the reactor vents. Looks like alien alloy. You were right. Sabotage." "Copy," Amara said. "Keep your helmets sealed. That alloy emits microtoxins." Kwame's voice joined in, steady but grim. "We'll collect samples. If they breach the vent, they wanted the oxygen processors to fail first. Psychological warfare. Suffocation before destruction." "Let them try," Amara muttered. "We've outlasted worse." She patched the ruptured conduit with a spare coil from her toolkit, fingers trembling from the cold. Each motion was deliberate, like the pattern of a drumbeat. She counted the rhythm aloud. 1, 2, breathe. 1, 2, fix. Minutes stretched into hours, but slowly the lights flickered from red to amber. The stabilizer's hum deepened, steadying into a low throb. Oxygen flow climbing, 1%, then 2%, then 5%. She slumped against the wall, exhaling. "We're back online," she whispered into the comm. Rayla laughed softly, the sound crackling through static. "Told you she'd pull it off." Kwame's relief came through as a measured tone. "You've bought us time, Captain, perhaps a day, maybe 2. "Then we make those days count," Amara said. "We adapt, we rebuild, we breathe." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full of resolve. Later, as they gathered around the dim central table, Kwame handed Amara a flask of purified water. "To the ancestors," he said quietly. Amara raised it to her lips, the metallic tang cutting through exhaustion. "To survival," she replied. Outside, the alien moon roared again, but this time the sound didn't feel like defeat. It was challenge, and humanity had just answered. Amara looked at her team, the flicker of determination mirrored in their tired faces. "They think we can't make it here," she said. "They don't know who we are." The hum of machinery deepened, a heartbeat reborn in metal and dust. The storms began without warning. At first, a low vibration rippled through the colony's foundation, a subtle tremor that made the lights flicker. Then came the magnetic surge, crimson lightning carving across the alien sky, scattering dust and static into violent waves. Amara Cole watched the readings spike on her wrist display. "Radiation levels are climbing. Seal every dome, now." Rayla Jordan's voice cracked over the comm, sharp and urgent. "We've got drones circling above the ridge, alien recon units." "Looks like they're watching us, Captain." Amara turned toward the reinforced viewport. Through the storm's red haze, she could make out dark, angular shapes hovering in the distance, their movements precise, deliberate. They weren't attacking. They were observing, waiting. Dr. Kwame Mensah joined her, his breath fogging the inside of his visor. "They're studying us," he said. "Like a scientist watching a specimen adapt to the wrong habitat." "Then let's give them something worth studying," Amara replied. The dome shook as another surge hit, sparks dancing from the overhead conduits. The team scrambled to secure equipment. Rayla dragged a heavy generator toward the inner chamber. "These storms don't follow natural patterns," she muttered. "Feels like they're guiding them right over us." "Could be electromagnetic manipulation," Kwame said. "If their ships can shape gravity, controlling weather would be simple." Amara's mind raced through possibilities. The oxygen system was holding steady for now, but their shielding wasn't built for this. She glanced at the old Earth technology they'd salvaged. Analog meters, copper wiring, a fusion of centuries-old design and frontier improvisation. "Power to the outer stabilizers," she ordered. "We'll run a suit test outside. If this atmosphere is changing faster than predicted, I need first-hand data." Rayla turned, eyes wide. "You're not serious." "It's suicide out there." Amara's tone was calm, firm. "If we wait for the storm to decide our fate, it already has." Kwame handed her a modified exosuit helmet. "At least take this. I reinforced the filters with carbon nanoweave. It might buy you 10 more minutes." She nodded, fastening the seals. "That's all I'll need." The airlock hissed as she stepped out. The wind hit like a physical force, dust hammering against her armor. The crimson sky above swirled with violent beauty, lightning streaking across violet clouds, every flash exposing the jagged terrain of Acrion's moon. Her boots sank into the dust, the surface vibrating beneath her. She raised her scanner, reading impossible fluctuations. Magnetic resonance fields looping in perfect intervals, too structured to be natural. "Kwame, you seeing this?" she said through comms. "The storm's rhythmic. Every surge follows a pattern." Kwame's voice came back, steady but intrigued. "Like a frequency." "Exactly. Someone or something is orchestrating it." Before she could record another reading, a shadow swept over her. The nearest drone descended silently, its metallic hull reflecting flashes of lightning. Its sensors pulsed blue as it scanned her, hovering close enough for her to feel the vibration through her armor. Amara stared up at it. "You watching us struggle, huh? Taking notes?" The drone tilted slightly as if considering her words. Then, without warning, it projected a single image into the dust. An alien sigil, the same emblem that had been on the flag the soldier planted. The message was clear. "We own this sky." Amara clenched her jaw. "Not for long." She backed away, steadying her breathing. Her visor display flickered, oxygen levels dipping. "Rayla, bring me in." Suit integrity's dropping fast. The airlock cycled open and she stumbled inside. Rayla pulled off her helmet as Kwame checked her vitals. "Well?" Rayla asked. Amara caught her breath. "The storm isn't weather. It's communication. They're speaking through the atmosphere." Kwame frowned. "A weaponized language." "Maybe," Amara said. "But every language can be learned." Rayla smirked, wiping the dust from her sleeve. "You mean you want to talk back?" Amara looked toward the viewport where the crimson sky still burned. "No," she said quietly. "I want them to listen." The storm had passed, but the silence it left behind was worse. Every sound in Dome B seemed amplified. The hum of the generator, the hiss of recycled air, the uneven rhythm of boots on metal floors. Amara Cole could feel it in her chest. Something was wrong, something deeper than broken machinery. Kwame stood beside the central console, eyes scanning the data feed. "Radiation surge is subsiding." "But someone accessed the life support core during the storm." Rayla looked up sharply. "Who had clearance?" "Only 4 of us," Kwame said. "You, me, Amara, and one of the Lagos engineers. Jalen, I believe." Amara's gaze darkened. Pull the logs. The screen flickered, revealing lines of corrupted code. The timestamp glowed in red, the exact moment the drones had appeared. Kwame exhaled slowly. This wasn't an outside hack. Someone inside disabled the stabilizer lockouts. The realization settled like dust in her lungs. A traitor. On an alien moon, where survival already depended on trust, the word itself felt like poison. Rayla's voice was cold. If someone's feeding intel to the aliens, they're not just betraying us, they're helping wipe out what's left of Earth's people. Amara rubbed the back of her neck, feeling exhaustion seep into her bones. Let's not jump to conclusions. We find proof first. Kwame's eyes didn't move from the screen. Proof is right here, Amara. Whoever did this knew how to mask their trail. That means training, military or cybernetic. Rayla's jaw tightened. Then we start with Jalen. Amara hesitated. Jalen was young, barely 25, a systems tech who'd come from Accra's post-collapse rebuilding programs. She'd seen him laugh while wiring the oxygen pumps, his optimism cutting through the bleakness of the moon. But hope could hide a lot of things. Bring him in, Amara said. Minutes later, Jalen stood in the center of the dome, his hands trembling as Rayla dropped the access chip on the table between them. You want to explain this? She asked. He stared at it, confused. That's not mine. Kwame's tone was measured but heavy. The chip carries your biometric signature. That's impossible, Jalen protested. I didn't. Amara raised a hand, silencing him. Tell me where you were when the drones came. I was outside the west perimeter, inspecting the relay nodes. Ask Kofi, he saw me leave. Kwame glanced at the logs again. There's no record of your suit's external telemetry. Either the data was erased, or you never left. Jalen's face crumpled in disbelief. You think I'm with them? With those things? Rayla leaned forward, eyes hard. You tell us why your credentials were used to shut down our stabilizers, or you won't be breathing long enough to deny it. Amara's voice cut through the tension. Enough. She looked at Jalen, her expression unreadable. If you're telling the truth, we'll find out. But if you're lying, I'll make sure every breath you take feels borrowed. Jalen swallowed, his voice breaking. Captain, I swear on my family's graves, I didn't do this. Amara studied him for a long moment. There was fear in his eyes, but not the kind that came from guilt. It was the fear of being cornered by something bigger than himself. Kwame, she said softly. Keep him under observation. Isolate his access codes. Kwame nodded. Understood. As the others left, Amara remained by the console, staring at the scrolling data. Hidden between the corrupted logs, a fragment of alien code shimmered for a split second, then vanished. She whispered under her breath, It wasn't him. Rayla's voice came over the comm. Say again, Captain. Nothing, Amara replied. Just thinking out loud. But the thought lingered like static in her mind. The aliens had studied them, imitated their signals. If they could mimic code, how far could they go? Amara looked out toward the crimson horizon, her reflection merging with the moon's dust. If the enemy's not outside, she murmured, then they're already in our systems. And somewhere deep in the colony's mainframe, an unseen signal pulsed once, silent, rhythmic, and human. The colony felt heavier after the accusation. Conversations stopped when Amara entered a room. The hum of the machine seemed to echo judgment, as if the metal itself whispered about betrayal. Outside, the crimson storms had calmed, but tension had taken their place, thick and suffocating. Amara sat near the damaged oxygen reactor, her hands covered in grime. She'd been working for hours, welding fractured pipes and recalibrating the core. Her movements were sharp, mechanical, but her thoughts kept drifting. Back to Earth, to her grandmother's courtyard in Lagos, where the air smelled of rain and roasted maize, where stories were sung instead of told. Her comm crackled. Captain, Kwame said, voice steady but tired. Systems are stable for now, but morale isn't. The crew's afraid. Amara wiped her brow. Fear's natural. What matters is what we do with it. Kwame hesitated. There's talk of mutiny if the oxygen drops again. She closed her eyes. Then we give them something to hold on to. Later, in the mess chamber, she found the crew huddled in silence. Their faces were grey under the emergency lights, their movements slow. Jalen sat apart, eyes downcast, isolation heavy on his shoulders. Rayla leaned against the bulkhead, jaw tight, watching him. Amara stood at the center of the room. "We've lost too much to let suspicion finish what the storm started," she said. "If we forget who we are, then the aliens already won." Kwame looked up from his seat. "And who are we, Captain?" Amara took a deep breath. "We are the ones who turn chaos into rhythm. The ones who find music in the noise." She tapped her hand against the table. 3 beats, slow and deliberate. Then again, faster. A pulse, human and familiar. Rayla frowned. "What are you doing?" "Reminding us," Amara said. "This was how my people passed messages when words weren't safe. Patterns, beats. Each rhythm meant survival." Kwame's lips curved into a faint smile. "Talking drums," Amara nodded. "Our ancestors used sound to fight silence, to say, 'We're still here.' Maybe that's what we need right now." The crew watched as she began tapping again, this time letting the rhythm flow naturally, syncopated and alive. Slowly, Rayla joined in, drumming on the metal wall with the flat of her hand. Then one of the Lagos engineers followed, tapping a wrench against a pipe. Soon the mess hall vibrated with a low, steady rhythm, a heartbeat for the dying colony. Kwame's deep voice broke through the percussion, humming an old Akan melody. It was soft at first, then louder, rising above the sound of the machines. The others joined in, uncertain but willing. Amara felt the air shift. The fear didn't disappear, but it changed shape, became energy, became motion. The crew was breathing together, moving together. When the rhythm faded, a strange quiet settled over them, not empty, but full. Jalen looked up for the first time in days. "Captain," he said softly, "my mother used to sing something like that, back home when power went out during the floods." Amara met his gaze. Then she knew what it means to survive the dark. Rayla exhaled, tension finally easing from her shoulders. "Guess music's cheaper than therapy." Kwame smiled faintly. "And more effective." The lights flickered once, then steadied, a subtle sign that the oxygen reactor was stabilizing. Amara turned toward the readout on the far wall, oxygen rising by 2%. It wasn't much, but it was life. She looked back at her team. "We'll keep fixing, rebuilding, breathing, one beat at a time." Kwame nodded. "Maybe that's what they don't understand about us, the rhythm of endurance." Amara allowed herself a small smile. "They'll learn soon enough." Outside, the alien moon lay silent, its surface still marked by the flag that mocked humanity. But within the dome, beneath layers of dust and fear, something else had taken root. A quiet defiance pulsing to the rhythm of survival. The hum of the colony had changed. It wasn't just the sound of machines anymore. It carried rhythm, like the aftertaste of the night before. The beat had grounded them, reminded them of who they were, but for Amara Cole, it had also sparked a question. If rhythm was survival, what else could it reveal? She stood in the comms chamber, staring at the alien signal patterns that flickered across the holographic screen. Jagged waves of sound and light scrolled endlessly, unreadable to human software. Yet something about the shapes felt familiar, not in logic but in pulse. Kwame entered quietly, carrying a datapad. "I ran another decryption cycle. The AI still can't translate their transmissions. It says the frequency structure is non-linear." Amara tilted her head. "Non-linear, or just humanly misunderstood?" He gave her a look. "You think it's a language?" "I think it's music," she said. "A coded rhythm. Every pulse hits in sequence, like call and response." Kwame frowned, leaning closer to the display. "You're saying they're communicating through tempo? Maybe. Or maybe they're taunting us in a tongue we don't yet know we understand." Rayla's voice cut in from behind them. "I'd say you've officially gone space crazy if I hadn't heard you pull us out of worse." Amara gestured to the console. "Listen to this." She adjusted the modulation, amplifying the alien transmission. The chamber filled with a deep, resonant hum that rose and fell in patterns too precise to be random. Kwame's eyes widened as he began mapping the beats on his pad. "It's structured," he murmured. "Time intervals repeating every 7.6 seconds. But the cadence isn't mathematical," Amara finished. "It's organic. It breathes." The realization hung between them. Rayla crossed her arms. "You're saying these things are singing to us?" Amara met her gaze. "No, they're talking, and maybe it's time we answered." Kwame smiled faintly. "A dialogue in rhythm. How fitting." He pulled data from the colony's archives, recordings of African talking drums, Yoruba Bata patterns, and ancestral rhythms encoded centuries ago. "You know," he said, scrolling through the files, "the old drum languages could carry entire sentences across miles. Maybe the ancestors were already speaking a kind of code, one that survived space." Amara's eyes softened. A language older than war. They began layering the human rhythms over the alien frequencies, adjusting tones, pitches, and durations. The interference patterns shifted, forming new harmonics. The alien signal responded, slightly, almost imperceptibly. Rayla leaned forward. "Wait, did that just change?" Kwame nodded, excitement flickering behind his calm demeanor. "They're replying, matching our pulse." Amara felt her chest tighten with awe. "Then we've made contact." The three of them exchanged glances, equal parts wonder and fear. Humanity had spoken back to the unknown, not with weapons or algorithms, but with sound born from memory. Hours passed as they refined the exchange. Each wave of rhythm came faster, more layered. The aliens seemed to adapt, their responses growing complex, mirroring human syncopation. It was dialogue, unspoken, musical, alive. Then, suddenly, the frequency spiked. The display blazed white and the console overloaded. Sparks showered across the floor. Kwame slammed a hand on the controls. "They're sending something back. Too much data." Amara pulled the power coupler. The noise cut off instantly, leaving only the sound of their heavy breathing. Rayla broke the silence. "What the hell just happened?" Kwame stared at his flickering datapad. "They transmitted coordinates directly into our system." Amara's heartbeat quickened. "Coordinates to what?" Kwame's voice was low, uncertain. "A location, about 10 kilometers north, on the far side of the crater." Rayla cursed under her breath. "So now the aliens are giving us invitations?" Amara straightened, her eyes on the pulsating red marker that now blinked on the map. "Maybe not invitations," she said. "Maybe warnings." She glanced once more at the frozen display, the last visual of the alien waveform shaped uncannily like a heartbeat. "Whatever it is," Amara murmured, "they know we can hear them now." The coordinates burned like a secret on Amara's wrist display. For hours the team debated what to do. No one wanted to admit it, but curiosity had already won. The signal they'd received wasn't just communication. It was an invitation, or maybe a test. By morning, the crimson light over Akrion's moon had deepened, thick with dust. Amara and Rayla stood by the reinforced airlock, helmets sealed, as Kwame adjusted their suit transmitters. "Radiation levels are low enough to make the trip," he said, "but I can't predict what's waiting there." Rayla smirked. "Since when did we ever wait for predictions?" Amara glanced at her. "This isn't about courage, it's about understanding who or what is calling us." Kwame's expression tightened. "Just remember, Captain, some doors shouldn't be opened." "Maybe," Amara said, "but some are meant to be kicked in." The lunar dust clung to their boots like ash as they made their way across the wasteland. Each step sank deep into the soil, soft and metallic, glowing faintly under the red haze. Their visors mirrored the horizon, where jagged ridges cut the sky like old scars. Halfway through the trek, Rayla paused. "You feel that?" The ground vibrated beneath them, faint but rhythmic, like a pulse traveling through the earth. Kwame's voice crackled through comms. "It's the same frequency as the alien signal. It's alive in the soil." Amara crouched, brushing her gloved hand through the dust. "Not alive," she said softly. "Remembered." This moon keeps memory. As they neared the coordinates, a shadow rose ahead, a massive crater lined with black crystalline structures, glinting under the dying light. The air shimmered with static. Rayla let out a low whistle. "Looks like a scar carved by something bigger than war." Kwame's voice came through again, distant but tense. "Captain, I'm picking up magnetic distortion from your position. You're near a power source, something ancient." Before Amara could reply, a deep vibration shook the ground. The ridge split open in a burst of red dust. A column of light erupted skyward, and the wave hit them like a hammer. Amara's body slammed into the ground, suit alarms screaming. Static filled her ears. Through the haze, she saw Rayla struggling to stand, her silhouette illuminated by the crimson glow. "Captain!" Kwame's voice was faint through the distortion. "You need to get out of there. The readings are spiking." Then everything went silent. Amara's visor display flickered, showing fragments of alien code, shifting too fast to read. Shapes formed, symbols she recognized from the flag, and beneath them, what looked like human DNA patterns. The realization struck like ice. "Rayla," she whispered. "They've been studying us, not just signals, our biology." Rayla's breathing quickened. "Why?" "To understand us or to copy us?" Amara didn't answer. The light dimmed suddenly, leaving only the faint hum of energy underfoot. Then, from the edge of the crater, movement. Black drones emerging like insects from the dust, their metallic shells reflecting the crimson glow. "They're here," Rayla muttered. "How many?" "Too many," Amara said, rising to her feet. "Fall back to the ridge." "Now!" They ran, the drones gliding silently behind them, beams of blue light cutting across the ground. Amara fired her pulse pistol, hitting one square in the center. It disintegrated into shards, but two more took its place. Rayla's voice was breathless. "We can't outrun them." Amara scanned the terrain, spotting a crevice ahead. "This way." They slid into the narrow gap just as the drone's lights passed overhead. For a moment, only their breathing filled the silence. Rayla looked at her, eyes wide behind the visor. "What the hell was that?" Amara leaned against the rock, trying to steady her heartbeat. "Proof," she said, "that we're not just trespassing on their moon. We're standing on something sacred." A long pause followed, broken only by the faint hum echoing through the stone, steady, unrelenting, like the rhythm of a drum buried beneath the surface. Kwame's voice finally returned, static-filled but clear enough to send a chill through both of them. "Captain," he said, "you need to come back. The colony's under attack." Amara stared toward the red horizon, her jaw set. "Then the war just found us." By the time Amara and Rayla reached the colony, the horizon was burning red with static fire. Explosions flickered against the domes, silent through the thin atmosphere but deafening in their meaning. The alien fleet had returned, not to mock, but to erase. Kwame's voice came through the comms, strained. "Main dome is breached. I've sealed off the reactor tunnels, but we're losing pressure fast." Amara's boots hit the ground running. "Hold your position. We're coming in." Inside, chaos ruled. Lights flickered. Oxygen alarms wailed, and the survivors worked desperately to seal ruptured panels. The air was sharp with metallic dust and the scent of burnt wiring. Rayla dropped her helmet, coughing. "They're hitting us with sonic bursts. Our systems can't stabilize under the vibrations." Kwame appeared from the smoke, his suit half charred, but his eyes unbroken. "We can reroute through the underground tunnels. The old lava channels might shield us from the attacks." Amara nodded. "Get everyone below. We'll regroup there." They moved fast, guiding the crew through the narrow access shafts that led into the lunar crust. The tunnels were ancient, remnants of the moon's molten past, dark, vast, and eerily still. The walls shimmered faintly under their lights, mineral veins glowing like veins of fire. Kwame checked his scanner. "We're safe for now." "The readings show minimal interference down here." Rayla leaned against the rock, breath heavy. "Safe. We're buried alive, Kwame." "Alive is a start," Amara said. "We can build from there." They gathered in the central cavern, the colony's survivors forming a tight circle. There were only 12 left. Amara looked at them, faces smeared with dust and fear, yet still standing, still breathing. Kwame unrolled a fragment of alien metal he'd salvaged earlier, its surface etched with strange runes. These markings, they're power conduits. If we can reverse engineer their resonance, we might redirect their energy weapons against them. Rayla raised an eyebrow. You mean build a defense grid out of alien scraps? Kwame smiled faintly. Humanity has done more with less. Amara's voice carried quiet conviction. Then that's what we do. We turn what they use to destroy us into the thing that saves us. For hours, they worked in silence, broken only by the hum of tools and the steady rhythm of effort. Rayla calibrated the generator coils while Kwame traced energy flow through alien circuitry. Amara oversaw every connection, her mind sharp despite exhaustion. When the first pulse fired through the conduit, the walls trembled, but held. The system glowed faint blue, then stabilized. A weak barrier field shimmered to life around the tunnel's entrance. Kwame exhaled. It's crude, but it might buy us time. Rayla wiped sweat from her brow. You know, Captain, I think we just built the first human shield on an alien moon. That's one for the history books. Amara allowed a brief smile. History's written by survivors. Let's make sure we qualify. Silence fell again, but it wasn't empty. It was heavy with determination. Amara sat near the generator, her hands still trembling from the strain. She thought of Earth, of the cities lost beneath oceans, of Lagos lights reflected in the floodwater, of the music that never stopped, even when the world did. Her grandmother's voice returned to her, steady and warm. When the storm takes your home, child, you carry your roof in your heart. Rayla's voice broke the quiet. Do you ever think they hate us because we don't give up? Amara looked up. They don't hate us, she said. They fear us. Because everything they break, we rebuild stronger. Kwame nodded, his tone soft but firm. Steel and spirit. That's the human alloy. Amara rose to her feet, looking at the faint glow of their shield. Then let's prove it. We've got one shot to make this moon ours, not through conquest but through endurance. Above them, the alien bombardment resumed, shaking dust from the tunnel ceiling. But the shield held, and beneath the surface of an enemy world, the last humans of Acreon began to build something no storm could erase. The tunnels pulsed with faint blue light, the hum of the makeshift defense grid echoing through stone. It wasn't much, but for the survivors of Luna 3, it was a heartbeat, a fragile rhythm between existence and extinction. Amara Cole stood before the holographic console, studying the waveforms projected across the cavern wall. The patterns shifted endlessly, alien and elegant. Each pulse carried data, frequencies that had once silenced human machines. But now she saw something more. They're not random, she murmured. Kwame looked up from his workstation. You've been saying that for hours. What are you seeing, Amara? She pointed at the repeating wave. Listen to it, 7 beats, pause, then 5. That same rhythm's in the storm frequencies, in their drones, even in their attack bursts. Rayla leaned against a rock, arms crossed. So what? You think the aliens are sending us a mixtape? Amara smiled faintly. No, I think they've been using rhythm as a weapon, sound waves tuned to disrupt our systems. But what if we turn that against them? Kwame's brow furrowed. A counter-frequency. Exactly, Amara said. Something built from human rhythm, predictable enough to control, chaotic enough to confuse them. Rayla frowned. Like jamming their comms with music? Amara nodded slowly. With purpose. The right pattern could interrupt their pulse network. We could blind their drones, even weaken their ships. Kwame's eyes lit with recognition. You're talking about resonance warfare, but it would take a precise harmonic code, one strong enough to compete with alien tech. Amara turned to the console, her fingers flying over the keys. We already have one. She uploaded a file from the colony's archives, the recording of their rhythmic gathering in the mess hall, when despair had turned to unity. The same drum pattern that had reminded them who they were. Kwame froze as the waveform filled the projection. You're using the song. Amara's voice was steady. It worked once to keep us alive. Let's see if it can do more. Hours passed as they merged human rhythm with alien signal structures, building what Kwame called The drummer's code, a frequency of survival. Each iteration pulsed with life, echoing the syncopation of human heartbeats. The system trembled under the stress, but the waveforms began to align. Kwame looked up, sweat beading his forehead. It's working. Their networks reacting, fluctuating between stability and overload. Rayla grinned. So music just became a weapon. Amara's tone was low. Not a weapon. A message. We're telling them we won't vanish quietly. The final test required direct broadcast. Amara connected the colony's power grid to the signal relay, fingers trembling as she entered the command. When I hit this, it'll trigger a wideband transmission through their atmosphere. If it fails, we fry our own systems. Kwame adjusted the controls. Then it better not fail. Rayla, Amara said softly, when this starts, you monitor the grid. If the field destabilizes, cut power immediately. Rayla's smirk faded. And if you don't make it back? Amara met her eyes. Then finish the song. The first pulse erupted like thunder. The tunnels shook as the drummer's code rippled through the moon's crust, a rhythm so deep it vibrated in their bones. The alien frequencies shifted violently, trying to counter the beat, but the code adapted, looping, responding alive. Kwame stared at the readings. They're losing synchronization. Their comms are fragmenting. Rayla's laughter cracked through static. We're breaking their silence with music. Amara's hands clenched around the console, heart pounding with each pulse. Keep it steady. Don't let it drop. Then, through the distortion, the alien return signal changed. Not chaotic, mimicking, answering. For the first time, their frequencies aligned perfectly with the human rhythm. Kwame whispered, "They're responding in kind." Amara's breath caught. Then they're listening. The wave stabilized into a haunting harmony, alien tones intertwined with human percussion. It was communication, not war. But before she could celebrate, the grid sparked violently. The console screamed with overload warnings. Rayla shouted, "The system can't handle the feedback." Amara's voice was calm amid the chaos. "Let it play." The last pulse echoed through the tunnels like a heartbeat of two worlds colliding. Then silence fell, thick and absolute. Kwame looked at her through the flickering light. "What have we just done, Amara?" She smiled faintly. "We've taught the universe to dance." The colony slept in uneasy silence after the drummer's code. The system was barely holding, and no one knew if the aliens' response meant peace or something far worse. Amara Cole sat alone in the dim glow of the command chamber, eyes fixed on the static-filled monitors. Her reflection looked older, harder, someone who had seen too much of loss and not enough of home. Kwame entered quietly, carrying 2 cups of nutrient broth. "You've been here all night," he said. "You should rest." Amara accepted the cup, her hands trembling slightly. "I can't. Every time I close my eyes, I hear it. The rhythm, it's still echoing in my head." Kwame took a slow sip before speaking. "Maybe that's not a bad thing." Amara gave a tired smile. "Depends on what it's saying." For a while they sat in silence. The hum of the failing systems filled the space between them. Then Kwame spoke again, voice soft. "Do you ever think about Earth? Before the collapse?" Amara's gaze drifted toward the flickering light. "Every day. My grandmother used to tell stories on our rooftop in Lagos. When the floods came, we'd climb up high, look out at the water, and she'd say, 'See, Amara, even the sky has fallen to meet us.' She believed there was beauty in survival." Kwame nodded. "My father used to say the same. That survival wasn't just breathing, it was remembering who you are." Amara exhaled slowly. "That's why I fought to come here. Not to conquer this moon, but to make sure humanity didn't forget its own rhythm. The world below might have drowned, but its heart still beats." The comms crackled. Rayla's voice came through, urgent but controlled. "Captain, we've got movement outside the perimeter." Amara stood immediately. "Alien forces." "Can't confirm. Energy readings are faint, like echoes." Kwame frowned. "Echoes?" They hurried to the observation tunnel. Through the reinforced glass, faint lights flickered in the distance. blue, rhythmic, pulsing in time like a heartbeat. Rayla joined them, her expression cautious. They're not attacking, just watching. The lights began to shift patterns, creating complex waveforms that mirrored the human rhythm from the drummer's code. Amara's chest tightened. They're repeating it. Kwame's voice was quiet with awe. They've learned the song. Rayla glanced at Amara. So what now? We dance? Amara almost laughed. No. We listen. The pulses grew stronger, resonating through the ground, shaking dust from the tunnel ceiling. The vibration carried something deeper than sound. It was emotion, not anger, not dominance, recognition. Kwame turned to her. It's communication. A reply. Amara felt the weight of generations pressing through the silence of that alien rhythm, an echo of Lagos, of drums played under open skies, of ancestors who refused to be erased. She whispered, "They're not enemies. They're students." Rayla frowned. Students of what? Amara looked back at the glowing horizon. Of us. The realization hit them all at once. The aliens hadn't been trying to destroy them. They had been trying to understand the thing that made humans impossible to predict, the soul hidden in rhythm, the unbreakable pattern of defiance and creation. Kwame smiled faintly. Maybe that's what it means to be human, to make something the universe has to learn from. Amara's comm beeped with a transmission alert. She checked the display, alien code scrolling faster than the system could translate. Amid the symbols, one line appeared in clear English. "We hear you." Her breath caught. They're speaking our language. Rayla let out a stunned laugh. Guess the lesson's stuck. Amara turned off the monitor, the faint hum of their message still resonating through the floor. Then we keep teaching. Kwame raised his cup in silent salute. To the echoes that never die. Amara nodded. To Lagos, to Earth, to rhythm. Outside, the alien lights danced across the scarred moon's surface. Two civilizations finally sharing the same song, each heartbeat carrying the memory of the other. The storm came without warning, soundless, blinding, and absolute. One moment the colony was still, the next it was drowning in light. The alien fleet had returned larger than before, the sky alive with red streaks and collapsing clouds. Amara Cole stood in the command tunnel, shouting orders through the roar of static. Shields to full power. Redirect the generator output to the North Dome. Rayla's voice cracked through the comms. We're overloading. If we push any harder, the entire grid will melt. Then let it melt, Amara said. Better that than silence. The ground quaked as the first impact struck. Dust cascaded from the ceiling, choking the air. Kwame stumbled into the control chamber, his visor cracked, face streaked with sweat and soot. They're targeting our transmission relay. They want to silence the drummer's code. Amara clenched her fists. Then we make them hear it one last time. Kwame hesitated. If we amplify it through the main core, the feedback will tear the system apart. I know, she said. Prepare it anyway. Outside, the alien fleet descended like falling stars. Their drones swarmed the horizon, beams slicing through the thin atmosphere. The sound wasn't thunder, it was vibration, a pressure that crawled beneath the skin. Rayla's voice came through again, tight and breathless. They're inside the perimeter. I'm going to draw them off. Amara froze. Negative, Lieutenant. That's an order. I never was good at following orders, Rayla replied, a faint smile in her tone. Before Amara could answer, the sensors flared red. A single human signal streaked into the sky, a lone shuttle breaking from the underground hangar, its engines burning blue against the crimson storm. Kwame's eyes widened. She's flying straight into them. Amara's throat tightened. She's buying us time. The comm crackled one last time. Tell them, Captain, tell them humans don't bow. Then the line went silent. The shuttle vanished into the light. Amara's hands trembled, but her voice did not. Kwame, initiate full-frequency broadcast. Use the rhythm sequence we coded yesterday. He hesitated only a moment, then nodded. Aye, Captain. The hum began again, deep and resonant. spreading through the tunnels like a living pulse. The walls vibrated. The very dust on the ground seemed to dance in rhythm. The sound rose until it was no longer just human. It was planetary. Outside, the alien formation faltered. Their ships wavered mid-air, their synchronized patterns breaking apart. The rhythm interfered with their systems, shaking their precision apart. Kwame shouted over the noise, "It's working!" But Amara saw the readings spike into red. "The core's overheating." "We can't sustain this." Kwame turned to her, his expression both terrified and resolute. "Then we burn bright." The power grid exploded in color. The colony shook as blue and crimson merged into white. The moon's surface lit up like a sunrise in the void. Every drone within range collapsed, their frames disintegrating under the harmonic surge. In the heart of the chaos, Amara could almost hear it, the sound of Rayla's laughter echoing in the rhythm. Kwame's voice came soft through the fading static. "We did it." Amara stared at the monitors, the alien ships retreating beyond the horizon. At a cost. The lights dimmed, power drained. Silence filled the tunnels again, thick, final, and heavy with loss. Kwame sat beside her, voice hoarse. "Rayla's gone, the relay's gone, but the message, it's still traveling." Amara closed her eyes. "Then she's not gone. She's part of it now." Outside, the storm began to fade. Ash and dust drifted through the thin air, glowing faintly under the alien sun. The moon itself seemed to weep, streams of molten silver sliding down its scars, reflecting both destruction and rebirth. Amara whispered, barely audible, "When the moon wept, humanity sang back." And in that fragile quiet, the heartbeat of survival pulsed once more. The storm had passed, leaving only silence and ruin. The surface of Acrion's moon was unrecognizable, blackened craters where domes once stood, the air thin and metallic with the scent of melted alloy. Amara Cole climbed the ridge slowly, each step heavy, her lungs burning with the taste of ash. Below her, the colony was gone. What had once been the pulse of human endurance was now a graveyard of twisted beams and fractured shields. Kwame stood at the base of the ridge, his suit streaked with soot, his voice low over comms. "Radiation's fading. It's safe, for now." Amara didn't answer. She reached the crest and stopped. There, jutting from the dust, was the alien flag, the same one that had been planted on their first day here. Its silver fabric fluttered faintly in the faint wind, still mocking, still proud. She stared at it for a long time, her heartbeat slow and deliberate. "Human, you'll never survive our moon," the alien had said. The memory struck with the sharpness of a blade. Kwame joined her, breathing hard. "We should mark the site for the fallen," he said softly. "Rayla would have wanted that." Amara nodded, though her eyes didn't leave the flag. "We will, but not yet." She knelt beside the pole, her fingers brushing the alien metal. The flag was cold, its texture slick, almost alive. She gripped it tightly and began to pull. The metal resisted at first, humming faintly as if the moon itself objected. But she kept pulling, inch by inch, until the pole came free with a crack that echoed across the barren plain. Kwame watched in silence. "You're not just taking down their flag," he said. "No," Amara replied. "I'm reclaiming our breath." From the pouch on her suit she pulled a folded piece of fabric, faded blue and brown, the edges frayed. It was the mission's Earth flag, stitched by hand before they'd launched from the remnants of Lagos spaceport. Across its surface were signatures of every crew member, even Rayla's bold scrawl. "We rise." Kwame's voice softened. "That old thing survived everything?" "It was buried under the command console," Amara said. "Guess it knew when to hide." She planted the pole back into the ground, but this time it bore Earth's mark. The fabric caught in the weak wind, unfurling slowly, its colors muted by dust but defiant. Against the dying red sky it looked less like a banner of conquest and more like a promise. Kwame bowed his head. "You think they're watching us?" "I know they are," Amara said. "Let them see. Let them understand what surviving means." He exhaled, looking toward the horizon where the last alien ships were fading into the clouds. What now? Amara's gaze stayed on the flag. Now we rebuild. Not for power, for memory. Kwame gave a small smile. Terela would have liked that. She's part of it now, Amara said. Every rhythm, every beat. We'll keep her alive in the pulse of this place. For a moment, they stood in silence, the only sound the faint flap of fabric and the hum of the distant wind. Kwame adjusted his visor, glancing at her. You realize, Captain, that this moon will never be the same after what we've done. Amara's expression was firm. Neither will we. She looked once more at the alien flag lying in the dust, a symbol of arrogance now turned to ruin, then at the Earth flag above it, torn but proud. History won't remember this as victory, she said quietly. It'll remember it as endurance. The day humanity refused to die quiet. Kwame nodded, his voice soft. Then that's enough. The red sun began to rise, spreading light across the cratered landscape. Amara watched as the flag caught the dawn, glowing faintly gold in the new light. For the first time in days, she allowed herself to breathe deeply. Their moon tried to break us, she murmured. But we taught it to carry our name. The days after the storm blurred into one another, quiet, grey and hollow. The once thunderous colony was now a whisper of static and footsteps. Dust drifted through the broken halls, catching the pale light that filtered from the thin atmosphere above. Amara Cole moved slowly through what was left of the main corridor. Each room she passed carried a different kind of ghost, a burned-out console, a cracked visor, a wall marked by a human handprint in soot. Yet in the silence, she found something new, peace, the kind born not from victory, but from survival. Kwame worked near the command terminal, piecing together fragments of data from what remained of the archives. His hands were steady, though his eyes betrayed the exhaustion that came from weeks without rest. The radiation levels have dropped, he said quietly. The air is thin, but breathable with minimal filtration. The storms have stopped. Amara nodded. It's as if the moon itself has finally exhaled. Kwame smiled faintly. Maybe it learned something from us. Outside, the red sky had softened to pale gold. The horizon shimmered with warmth for the first time, revealing small patches of green, the first signs of terraforming taking root after months of chaos. Life, stubborn and uninvited, was beginning again. Amara stood beside the viewport, her gaze distant. Do you think they'll come back? The aliens? Kwame asked. No, I think they got what they wanted. A lesson. A lesson? He turned toward her, eyes steady. That survival isn't conquest, it's persistence. They saw that we don't just endure, we adapt, even when we break. Amara looked thoughtful. Maybe they didn't retreat. Maybe they left us space to grow. Kwame tilted his head. You think they pitied us? No, she said. I think they respected us. Silence returned, comfortable this time. The hum of the generators was soft, rhythmic, like the faint echo of the drummer's code still alive in the walls. Kwame broke the quiet. The communication array's partially functional. I can send a signal to the outer colonies on Titan and Mars. Let them know we're still here. Amara nodded slowly. Do it. Tell them Acrian's moon is no longer lost. He hesitated, glancing at her. What should I say exactly? She smiled faintly. Tell them humanity survived the impossible. Again. Kwame began typing, the words appearing across the dim screen. Luna 3 stands. Human presence remains active. The colony breathes. We endure. When he finished, he pressed send, and the message vanished into the void. Amara turned away, walking toward the outer platform where the flag still stood. Its edges were torn now, the once bright colors dulled by dust, but it flew all the same, steady, unwavering. Kwame followed her out, the weak wind tugging at their suits. I've been thinking, he said. When we first arrived, we came here believing this moon would either kill us or save us. I never imagined it would do both. Amara looked up at the flag, its motion slow and deliberate. It's never that simple. Survival's always a trade. We lost people, but we gained something larger. Understanding. Kwame's voice softened. Of what? Of ourselves. He nodded, letting the words settle. The silence between them felt like a hymn, the kind that didn't need sound to be heard. After a long pause, Amara spoke again. Do you ever wonder what they'll say about us back on Earth? Kwame smiled. That we were stubborn. Good, she said, because that's what humanity has always been, stubborn enough to hope. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the scarred landscape. The colony lights flickered one by one, flickering back to life, weak but real. Kwame turned to her. What now? Amara's gaze stayed fixed on the horizon. Now we live. We teach the next ones how to build from dust, and when they ask what we found here, she placed her hand over her heart. We'll tell them the silence taught us how to listen. Years passed on the moon of Acreon. The dust that had once choked the air now nurtured life. Thin fields of moss clung to the crater edges, and engineered trees, small, resilient, stubborn, took root in the soil that had seen war. Humanity had not rebuilt the colony to mirror Earth. They had let it grow into something new. Amara Cole stood on the plateau overlooking what remained of Luna 3. Where once had been wreckage, now there was laughter. Children ran across the pale ground, their voices carried on the thin wind. Their suits were light, almost ceremonial, the next generation of humans born under alien skies. Kwame approached from behind her, older now, his beard streaked with grey, his gait slower but his spirit unchanged. You know, he said, smiling faintly, I never imagined I'd live long enough to see a child born here. Amara's eyes followed a group of them chasing a drone that buzzed like a curious insect. Neither did I, she admitted. When we came, I thought survival would mean holding on to what we were. Turns out it meant learning what we could become. Kwame nodded. Adaptation. The same rhythm, just played in a different key. Amara smiled. You still speak like a philosopher. Occupational hazard, he replied. Someone has to make sense of what we did. Below them, a small gathering was forming near the central dome, a celebration of the colony's 10th year since the war. The people wore garments woven from local fibers, their patterns echoing the symbols of old Earth. Adinkra from Ghana, Nsibidi from Nigeria, patterns carried across centuries and now sewn into lunar fabric. Amara watched as one of the children, a girl with dark skin and bright eyes, climbed a rock to look out at the horizon. She had never seen Earth, but she carried it in her posture, in the certainty of her stance. Her name's Sade, Kwame said softly. Daughter of 2 of the engineers. She's the one who found the surviving seed archives. Amara's expression softened. She'll inherit a better moon than we did. Kwame looked toward the horizon. Do you ever wonder if we changed too much? Too much? Amara asked. Humanity, he said. We built homes in places that tried to kill us. We mixed our blood with alien air. Maybe the next generation won't even know what Earth smelled like. Amara thought for a long moment. Maybe that's the point. The soil remembers even when we don't. What matters isn't what we lost, it's what we kept. Kwame smiled quietly. The rhythm. Yes, she said. The rhythm. The celebration began with music, a blend of digital percussion and live drumming. Children and adults moved in unison, their steps leaving temporary marks on the moon's surface before the wind erased them. Each beat echoed through the colony's new domes, bouncing off the metal walls like a conversation between past and future. Amara closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the pulse vibrate through her chest. In it she could hear echoes of her grandmother's courtyard in Lagos, the soft hum of Rayla's engines, the song they had turned into survival. Kwame leaned close, his voice almost lost to the rhythm. We should record this. Let the outer colonies know what's possible. Amara opened her eyes, watching Sade spin in the dust, laughing as if gravity itself had softened. No, she said, let them find it for themselves. Some rhythms shouldn't be copied. They should be rediscovered. Kwame laughed softly. You've become the poet now. I learned from the best. The wind shifted, carrying the sound of drums farther across the plain. For a moment, it seemed as though the entire moon was alive, breathing in time with its human inhabitants. Amara whispered, almost to herself, "We were born from dust and now our children play in it." Kwame looked at her with quiet pride. "Then maybe this is what winning looks like." Amara nodded, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "Not winning," she said. "Becoming." The years had turned the scars of war into stories. Where once there was desolation, now the colony thrived, small gardens under translucent domes, rivers of condensation gliding down the metal walls, laughter woven into the hum of machinery. Humanity had not conquered Acrion's moon, it had learned to live with it. Amara Cole walked along the ridge where the first flag had been planted so many years ago. Her hair was silver now, her movements deliberate but strong. Each step left a faint mark on the soft dust, a reminder that no matter how many times the wind erased them, humans would always walk forward. Kwame waited near the flagpole, a data pad in hand. He was older too, though the light in his eyes had never faded. "It's official," he said. "The Council has named the colony New Lagos, the first interstellar city recognized as sovereign." Amara smiled faintly. "A piece of earth that chose to grow instead of grieve." Kwame nodded. "You should be proud. You made this possible." She shook her head. "We did. All of us. Even the ones who didn't make it." They stood in silence for a moment, the wind whistling softly through the rocks. The flag fluttered beside them, no longer a symbol of resistance, but of balance. Its colors were faded, yet still bright enough to catch the light. Kwame looked up at it, thoughtful. "You ever think about that alien soldier?" Amara let out a slow breath. "Every day. What do you think he'd say now, seeing what we've built?" Amara's gaze lingered on the horizon where the sun bled gold across the alien landscape. "I think he'd say the same words he said back then. Human, you'll never survive our moon." Kwame smiled. "And he'd still be wrong." Amara laughed softly. "Maybe not entirely. We didn't survive their moon. We changed it. And in doing so, it changed us." Below them, the colony pulsed with life. Children played near the energy towers, their voices carrying through the thin air, their laughter mixed with the rhythmic beat of distant drums, Sade's generation keeping the music alive. The rhythm had become part of the moon's very heartbeat, its pulse echoing through metal and stone. Kwame gestured toward the settlement. "We've come full circle, haven't we? From dust to song." Amara's voice was quiet. "That's what it means to be human, to find rhythm in ruin." Kwame handed her the data pad. "There's something else. The long-range array picked up a transmission this morning. It's faint, but familiar." Amara raised an eyebrow. "Alien?" He nodded. "Same harmonic structure as before, but this time it's softer. No aggression, just resonance." She listened as he played the recording. The sound filled the air, a low hum rising into layered tones, each one answering an invisible rhythm. It was music. Not human, not alien, but something in between. Amara smiled, eyes glistening. "They remember." Kwame looked at her. "Do we answer?" She shook her head. "No, not yet. Let the song travel. Let them know we heard it." The hum faded into the distance, merging with the wind. Amara looked once more at the flag, its fabric glowing in the fading light. "We were warned we'd never survive their moon," she said softly, "but maybe surviving was never the goal." Kwame tilted his head. "Then what was?" "To belong," she said. "To prove that humanity isn't a visitor in the universe. It's part of it." As they stood there, the first stars began to emerge, bright against the darkening sky. The colony lights below blinked like constellations, each one a testament to endurance, to memory, to rhythm. Kwame placed a hand on her shoulder. "You think they'll tell this story one day?" Amara nodded. "They already are." Every drumbeat, every breath, it's a reminder. She looked up at the endless sky. "They said we'd never survive their moon, but here we are, not surviving, living,